I decided a long time ago that however society expected a blind person to exist, I was going to be different. When I taught myself to hike, people told me I had to accept my limitations. They said blind people simply don't do things like that, and that the only thing I would accomplish would be to injure myself. When I thru-hiked the Appalachian Trail, everyone said it would be impossible. They said I would be a danger to myself, and most likely to others. When I went on to thru-hike the Pacific Crest Trail, the Tahoe Rim, the Shenandoahs, the Great Smoky Mountains, the John Muir, and climbed to the summit of Mount Whitney, many started to say I was inspirational. But there were still those who said I was simply hiking to escape having to deal with my blindness. The Colorado Trail is nearly 500 miles from Denver to Durango, over the Rockies and the Continental Divide. It would not be my longest thru-hike attempt, not by far, but with an average altitude of 10,000 to 14,000 feet, unpredictable weather, and some of the most rugged terrain in North America, it would be the hardest challenge. For the few who attempt to thru-hike at this trail each year, most will fail. When I was forced to get off trail, people said, maybe now he will realize his limitations, and possibly will be able to get on with his life. But I knew I would have to return. When I did so, it would have to be on my terms, and I would do it alone. The journey to get back to the trailhead took me nearly 4 years. 6,000 trail miles, 4 additional thru-hikes, inventing a new way for a blind person to navigate in the backcountry, and developing a partnership with the most unlikely of hiking partners. So on our second attempt, after 41 days of hiking, we achieved our goal and arrived in Durango. Though it's not officially on the Colorado Trail, we also climbed to the summit of Mount Elbert. At 14,440 feet, it is Colorado's tallest peak. Each long trail I have completed is special, but Colorado stands out. It challenged me in ways that I never dreamed possible, and it forced me to step further outside my comfort zone than I'd ever done before. Ultimately, this trail changed my life. I hike to challenge society's misconceptions about the blind and to push the barriers of what is humanly possible for a blind person to achieve. I hike to inspire, to provide hope, to show people that blindness is not the life-ending illness, disease, condition that most people think it is. I hike to confront and overcome fear. But most of all, I hike to take back what blindness attempted to take from me nearly 10 years ago. I hike for independence.
This was the time that I remember. It was just before Nam, and all that place brought home to us. For we were attracted to the city out of rural America by the power and the glitter. For even if it did not hold, there was then a center. It was way louder and brighter than provincial facsimiles. It roared, it clattered, it battered, and it actually mattered. It sucked us in. But we did not get it, chumps that we were, that we had been lured there. All I was a 20-year-old with 20/20 vision, and now I wanted to be in on the action. For I wanted to go over to those in the know, to smother conscience. I too wanted to be on the take, but with style and cool, if not grace. For there were no minimalists there. There were then aesthetics in our off-avenue caves, but who came out on the Sabbath to party. And one guide to the underground took me to the Newport Jazz Festival, and from there I learned of things further downtown. Coltrane, Mingus, and Monk, and much more. But I never touched smack of the half note, the five-spot, dangerous stuff on stage, loft parties where ideas too were imbibed, the vanguard and the nightlife, that fissure between the worldly wise and self-immolation. So that an economy where it was foremost that things worked according to plan, improvisation the suit of the Antichrist. But something in Lyndon's hard scrabble responded to the back of the bus, though not before Bobby's Bay of Pigs. Then later the Marial invasion would pay us back, but it put gringo sugar brigades on notice that civil rights would not be tolerated during Freedom Summer. Pack your bags, gringo, and go home. Yo no hablo inglés. For if the nightlife had not begun to alter my reflexes, I just might have re-upped, proving to me now personal corruption of value. Because I myself sure as shit didn't know which was the dirty end of the stick.
Days after the storm, I mean, does it look like that to you? It looked like there was even a storm here? Or what have you seen? Because in certain areas it looks like it happened yesterday. Yeah, it was pretty far-reaching. It was just nothing that anyone has ever seen. What, were they circled?
Yes.
Those are the streets we were in. This is Kissam Avenue, and this is Fox Beach right here.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the center of the storm. This area in particular has a history of hurricanes. And a history of flooding. In I think 38 there was a big one, 61 there was a big one. But then in 92 there was a nor'easter, it wasn't even a hurricane, where this whole area got between 5 and 7 feet of water.
How quick was a house structurally seemingly okay to when it wasn't?
Our understanding is it seemed the water came over the berm, but what happened is there's a water treatment plant over here, a sewage plant. The water came over there, and then it came around the plant. And after it came around the plant, there's a row of houses relatively new. They all got pretty much wiped out. These are all attached units, all newer homes. Then it seemed that the water came up here and then converged with the surge here. And when the water retreated back to the ocean, that's when most of the damage occurred. That's where the deaths occurred. And everybody's had it. You know, they as much as they love this neighborhood, they don't want anything to do with it. They don't ever want to come back.
These are vast neighborhoods that were built at, or in some cases below, sea level, in areas that had formerly been wetlands that really were designed by nature to absorb the impact of a storm like this.
Look at the aerial photo of Oakwood Beach and tell me which area jumps out where we should not have folks live and we can cede it back to Mother Nature.
The people who joined this buyout, all our members, we asked them to write letters. And every single letter says that houses never should have been built here. We don't belong here. And we want to sell our houses, and we want to, the way the government program works is when you sell the house to the government, it gets returned to nature. They demolish it, and they take any semblance of the house, the structure, the foundation is gone, and it goes back to nature. I'm kind of hopeful. I think that Sandy changed the perspective of a lot of people. And I think we have also sort of the city's attention and maybe even the nation's attention in terms of who we are, where we are, and maybe from a more global perspective, the right things will be done.
What I love about it is this thing was really organized by young people. I've been to a lot of the Veterans for Peace protests in Washington. I went to Quantico for Bradley Manning. It was mostly older people, and mostly a lot of it was Vietnam.
Yes, yes,
But all of a sudden, man, all these kids show up here.
Union job? This is the people's job.
People's job, all right.
It is very important that we reach this settlement today with the St. Paul, Minneapolis Police and the U.S. Secret Service to challenge how the authorities are dealing with press at public events.
Journalists and everyone who exercises their right to speak, their right to dissent, their right to document what the government is doing and spread that information serve an absolutely vital function in our society.
Democracy is a messy thing, and it's our job to capture it all, and we shouldn't have to get a record when we try to put things on the record.
This amendment does not only allow the government to sanction and permit one viewpoint, it has to allow every camera and every voice and every journalist to speak without any kind of censorship or repression.
I flew in for the settlement conference from Cairo, Egypt, where I live right now. I grew up in Cairo and I've lived there since the revolution. That sit-in has in some ways inspired street demonstrations around the world, including this one where we are speaking to you right here, this Occupy Wall Street demonstration. We have seen the police again act with the same kind of impunity that they acted in 2008. They have tear gassed peaceful protesters. They arrested 700 protesters on Saturday, the largest mass arrest in U.S. history.
We've seen protesters unlawfully arrested, journalists arrested, and also journalists told to turn off their cameras, to stop filming. This is unacceptable.
The settlement in this case is a great reminder and an excellent victory, not just for journalists, but also for the public and the Constitution. We have to make sure that we can exercise these rights, that the police do not engage in preemptive arrests, that the police do not overstep their authority when they're exercising their powers.
It is absolutely critical that we be able to cover these protests, that journalists be able to do their job. It protects all of us, not only journalists, but the protesters and the police as well.
I'm just standing back and watching in amazement and admiration at how well these kids have organized this, and the fact that they've been like pushing a philosophy of nonviolent protest from the very beginning. And I haven't seen anything like this where there weren't at least some point, drunk fist fights or some kind of trouble, outside trouble. People have managed to keep this whole thing so well organized and under control that it's the only way it is working is because they did that. Good. But all props to these kids.
It is essential to the functioning of a democratic society. And it is absolutely critical that we have a forum where different views can be heard. So often not even a fringe minority or a silent majority, but a silenced majority. This is a celebration of democracy.
I descended from the abused rock of the shoe-fly complex of the Sierras, created by the old continent colliding with the ocean floor, coast-bound on Highway 20, from the edge of the old continent to the new, past pillow basalt deposits at the Yuba River, where crows circled back to settle on trees extruded amid stations, bleeding the earth free of excess fluids, while the high-altitude flight of geese skewered the compass rose impeccably, not confused by the turbulence of the scavengers below. past the Sutter Butte's miniature volcano, visible far upwind in the slack tide of crops and condos, through the wetlands of Gold Rush gravel overflow, past the volcanic ash hoodoos of Clear Lake Oaks, listening to Satellite of Love, left in the car by my last ex-wife, past Mount Canocti with molten rock a few feet down, water and fish luminescent with mercury, the sunset reflected in lavic light off the tan hue of Clear Lake's waters. Clearly a shortcut through purgatory, heaven unreflected here, to the San Andreas Fault at the reconsidered coast, where I might find out of geologic time a place of refuge. In the Franciscan complex of the coastal range, the extension marking the edge of the new continent's melange of graywacke, muddy limestone. That extension marking the edge of the new continent's facelift, where I'd notice S. Groggins for sheriff coroner over a hand-painted Studebaker proclamation pasted and peeling on a wall in the Calusa of the Sacramento Valley's imperative of valley value and weather. There was Chick Montgomery's billboard, while I hurried for late Sunday service at the Ukiah Walmart, no longer puzzled by the fury of those resisting the cultural mud flow of our slides of stuff, hopelessly bracing the toe of descending value, remembering Sam promises the most for the least, hurrying on to the coast to say sorry to an ex-wife determined by her own genetic granite weathered into her surviving grouse, finally filigreed by life, living on the lavic exposure, oblivious of the molten undertow of repressed discontent of them below. I hurried to her, past the continuing gravel desolation of gold tailings, never stopping at official view sites bereft of view, past an oasis in foreclosure, on to the serrated edge of our ancient separation. But there in Lake County, pushing the speed limit, past road stands of combustible intoxicants, no cappuccinos just yet, newly constructed lakeside park, empty with the honesty of the pre-urban renewal reality, trying to see it all in abstraction, as an ocean current of subatomic stuff, in the equilibrium of gravity, learning not to see the delineation so sharply, whether rusted rambler or volcanic extrusion. It's best to see peripherally, so that we can get past this time, to wind and sky and broken buildings and abandoned cars, all here just the same. When you see clearly, said my friend Willem, you are neither holy nor wise, just an ordinary fellow who has completed his work.
Nice to be here. Fantastic. Fantastic to be here.
What's your mission that you have come?
Afghan Americans have returned and I'm just filming them coming back.
I just feel so blessed to be here, to be witnessing this thing, of all of you coming home to your country, and with the energy you're bringing and the spirit that you're bringing to this country. It's just so much hope.
My feeling is just, I'm so happy.
Coming off the plane, it was just, I don't know, I just put everything down and started kissing the ground for some reason.
I did kiss the ground, and I actually had a few of the soldiers come up to me, and they thought, they were like, you made us cry by kissing the ground, and I thought, oh my God, you know.
Kabul is the Klondike of the new century, a place where a young person can make, if not a fortune, then a stellar career riding the tide of international money that is flooding in with every United Nations flight from Islamabad. So Kabul has the social attractions of a colonial outpost joined to the feverish excitement of a boomtown.
The work of clearing up mine has already been started, but when you see people who are cleaning this mine holding only a plastic shield next to their face, it tells us how little we have done to do a great job in this place. 400,000 people have been killed and 400,000 more maimed. We cannot afford to maim other people during this cleanup time. And if you can see, their tools are so primitive. That I was privileged to be with a group of Americans who accompanied us in this trip. Every time I became depressed and hopeless about future of Afghanistan, these Americans would lift us and give us hope.
Looks like we're not the only people having a party here today. Okay, this is the commander eating here separately from all of us guys. Afghan traditional parties are till dawn, but these days to stay out after 10 p.m. you have to know the Nami Shad, name of the night, or code of the night.
Okay, and your name?
Willem Dietwars.
Willem de Tours has brought home to America the magical leap from Kung Fu master to shaman that a few of the very best of the Indonesian masters embody.
When I met Uncle, he was so amazing. I look at him, he's 75, going to be 76, I believe. I know, right? And he moves like a 21-year-old.
Age is only a number, but getting older is actually getting younger in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Once the spirit feels it has an uplift for feeling young, that means it will nourish your body because your mental mindset is already with the thought you are young, but you are not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a process of numbers. That's all. I do martial art to share with people. What can you do to become healthier? The fighting, well, you don't have to go far. Go to Afghanistan. You see plenty of fighting. You practice martial art to bring it farther in life, to share orders, to grab, hey, this is what you can do, okay? So, slowly with this. See here? Where was every one of you 1942, 1945, when the Japs invaded Java? The Japs came, they beat the crap out of the Allies. Before I know, I went in the camp. I learned martial art there in the camp. Why? I had to defend every little piece of meat I had. When the Japs came, it was hell. They found out my friend who was 17 was making a radio. And so we heard the news, Tokyo rose. And they brought him to the Japanese Kampitai, military police. We heard him scream. The next day, we were assigned to clean the office. What was his bone from his brain was against the wall. We had to scrape it. We had to clean the floor, but once your body was. There was so much conflict, so much fighting, really. And I've been in 8, I've been step 2. And because of a lucky, stupid thing, I survived. Not technique. Hell, technique is nothing. You don't think about technique the moment you see. Sure, stupid thing.
Uncle's greatest contribution is his passion to increase human potential.
Living a good life is a fortunate thing in life, but you got to be continuously a busybody by exercising and doing a lot of things, yard work, writing, whatever you do, painting, art. and not getting involved if problems come. So problems are no problems. They are a creation of your own, or just come at you, and let the problems take care of itself.
So what's the philosophy?
Philosophy is good laughter, enjoy life for what it's worth and what life gives you, and you cannot expect out of life too many things.
But I had a wonderful life. I live a life that most people couldn't, and my blessings have been great.
Where were you born?
I'm in Battle Mountain, Nevada. Yeah. My family were sheep people, and my mother and dad would go north with the sheep in the summer, and then in the winter they'd go to the desert down in central Nevada. They had small herds and stuff.
I did have quite a background. I never went to school except a short time, and well, I always call it in and out. It was an in and out school for me. But so I went to work when I was 13 years old. But in 1938, when I went to work, everything was just like it was way before my time. And of course, I had the fortunate thing to work with those old timers.
Everything was a horseback and mules and work horses, of course.
We had an operation out of Carlin. We had a ranch 40 miles from there, and those cattle would come in 3 days.
It was nothing for us to go 50 miles a day with going like north and south. And I just worked there till I went to the Army, and then I was there almost 3 years during World War II.
And I had the fortune of meeting Rosita, and she kind of turned me around.
Where'd you meet your wife?
I met her in Battle Mountain. She was going to college with one of my cousins. And Rosita, of course, was the one that kept our family very close. And she's been the one that settled me down. I'd be in prison today or dead. I'm very fortunate. I look at people that I'm nothing wrong with me. You know, when you see those people that mine's gone, but I'm not going to tell anybody.
I'll keep it a secret. You won't tell anybody.
but you know, so when you get this age, you got to be very fortunate to be doing what you want.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, you know, and having a great family and stuff. You know, that's so important.
Didn't get any better than that.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Tom practices a brand new form of medicine. It's called Tong Ren. It's an ancient Chinese word that means bronze man. It goes back to an ancient system of using acupuncture points that was lost for 1,000 years. A lot of people ask, well, how does this work? How do you explain this in Western terms? And there's actually a lot of really good research supporting our work, supporting his insights. One of the things we do is we talk about brainwave entrainment.
So the brainwave entrainment, that is mean one brainwave move, another brainwave will react in the same movement. So one brain gets the signal out, then another brain receives the same signal synchronized on the same signal.
And it's a concept that's very easily understood both in natural systems in the West. A flock of birds brilliantly negotiating winds or storms and staying together, they're holding together not based on sight or sound, but by a deeper sort of sixth or seventh sense called brainwave entrainment.
One bird flying, then sending the signal, not the sound. We go to fly away, we go to turn left, turn right. No, the little bird is sending the signal on the brain. So all the birds getting the signal, so they can fly together.
The same thing for a school of fish, negotiating a complicated reef, staying together, dealing with predators, instantaneous response to any kind of threat or change in temperature of the water. That's brainwave entrainment, and we actually see it in the West in non-biological systems. Two pendulum clocks hung on a wall will gradually come to swing in perfect synchrony. So another word for brainwave entrainment is the tendency of all systems, moving systems, to move into synchronization. The brain has an ability, an inherent ability that's called a frequency following response, whereby the brain tends to come into harmony with a larger frequency that is encircling it.
So again, anything that you do, like any way that you hit me, you should be able to demonstrate that you hit me 5 times harder than that.
They grab the knife, okay? Wait! Okay? And they can start attacking each other after they grab the knife.
Oh shit!
I got this. Does this count? Does that count for something? I thought I was doing so well, too.
Everybody grab one light bulb in here. Use your imagination. Use little bit whatever breathing you can. Some it will be thinking, make it like a ping pong ball. Some it will think, make it like a jello, and so on. So it doesn't matter what is your imagination that you use. That's okay.
Great. And then took it out. Yeah, I'm thinking ping pong ball. I want to hear this thing make a ping pong ball. Whoa!
I can drop this light bulb once in a while.
This one is easy because it's very thin, and then glass is basically it's just sand. And swallow it. Fine. Just like that. Swallow it, and then you have to kind of like blasting it from inside with your energy.
Wait a minute.
Yes. Otherwise, you will be poop with blood because
you didn't tell me that part.
I did now. There's failure on it. Of course, I show you all the demo that we do. There's a failure for it. Failure means it's real. If you succeed all the time, it's bullshit. This is as a practice of being calm, relax.
Inside the thing or out?
My dad always hired Oahe cowboys, and did what you should never do back then, when he shared his pint. Perhaps that is why at his wake no crying there, Poochie. Broke cowpokes and merchant prince ranchers, but absolutely no wide-brimmed drugstore cowboys. Just the real deal. Dressed pretty much alike. In starched Levi's and white shirts from all over their West. Perhaps they too had remembered this love of place and space. Perhaps this was part of Sitting Bull's mission to pass on to his tormentors, bushwhackers, red and white, the broken heart way, so that old cowboys, hiding from the pain, could practice their death songs in the out-of-the-way bars, safe from the bulldozers that have took the wild out of the West. Perhaps that is why my dad drank. Though that's not what his wives said. They had behind them a continuing line of tumble-down ranches in places like Teeth, Mitcham, Tuscarora, and Jigs. For later, when there was less headroom in California and no open-range herds unless the breath of Santa Ana and El Nino tangled the wire for a week or two, he drifted to Nevada, mistaking it for nirvana, where it took 100 acres for a cow to graze into steak. He arrived unnoticed with Bing Crosby and a bevy of Magnum owners who flew in on private DC-3s for round-up barbecues and 1 million acres of write-off. Like his wives, California had come with him.
Emmett had a lot of the same traits like all those guys did that were raised with the Californians. They had their own way of mastering horses, and they were great cattle hands. I had the the fortunate of being around them a lot.
In Nevada, I would be sent to look for him, passed out amongst itinerant hay hands with names like Tiny and Heavy on the floor of places like the Pioneer, across the street from the Commercial. But when sober, which could happen for weeks at a time, and once even for years, my dad could tell a story so that the most contrary, unembellished, saddle-sore cowhand was roped and tied, and certainly even his son, who was too dumb to find the art in shaking a loop like him, was spellbound by words and gestures and voices of the past found in expressions and impressions and tears of delight. Gucci.
Cherokee blacksmiths in 1791. In the Treaty of Holston, George Washington's agents signed a treaty that specifically stated that the U.S. government would send smiths, wheelwrights, and carpenters to teach the trades.
To the Cherokee?
Yep. And so, in 1816, under President Madison, the delegation was specifically charged with requesting more blacksmith shops on Cherokee lands, and the census in 1824-25 listed 61 blacksmith shops for the eastern Cherokees. By that time, my bunch had started migrating to Arkansas, and so by the Trail of Tears, we were well established in Arkansas and was the Western Division. I learned to smith somewhere along the line as a kid, and so I just started designing out things and smithing them, and that's how I make my living. So this one will end up being a utility knife with a drop point. So there is your knife in there. Then you come out for your finger groove, so that'll be taken off. And then we'll do our final forging and smooth it out. And so now it's the final steps to put the shaving edge on it. And so now you take it and you hone it on leather and just polish that off, and it should be a razor blade. Then you test it. It's got a shave, but it's got to have an edge that will hold. And if everything is done right, you get an edge that doesn't chip, but it doesn't readily roll on your fold. And so, this is our test. We take a piece of antler, horn, and we try to mess the edge up. And since it does, then that knife will be ready, it's ready for the case. You need three things to have a great blade. You got to start off with good steel, or a good steel alloy, and then you have to have the right bevel, and then you have to have a good temper. And if you get all three, they work together to form an edge that doesn't chip, but it doesn't fold.
Rainbow outside.
And so we make knives out of a variety of recycled stuff. Go to the junkyard, find you a set of springs. You can have enough knife material to last you indefinitely.
What is it that you want to do, and why do you want to do it? Who's going to help?
Well, I think it could help a lot of people, but specifically, I'd like to kind of put a little knife shop in the end of a horse trailer, like a live-in horse trailer, and go around to rural Native American communities that kind of are economically deprived, if you like, and just kind of show, hey, this is what I do, I make a living doing it, and it don't cost you a lot.
if you carry your body as a balloon. If you're being squeezed, if you don't let the air out, the pressure, what happens? It will bulge somewhere. Well, that somewhere is your body, so you don't want to bulge anywhere. When you're being squeezed, exhale. Okay? If you exhale completely, you don't have any internal pressure to sustain you. Right? So you exhale only as much as you have to. Okay? So, with your partner again, hand it back, gently. The worst thing he can do is to hold his breath, to tense up and be afraid. Okay? So don't give your partner this. Okay? Yeah, you want to work through, you want to help him to work through his fears of being punched because, again, let's face it, we hardly ever do that. So don't scare him right away. Give him time to manage both fear of fist coming to his body, fist penetrating his body, and the pain's about to come. So punch, not hard, but enough for him to, don't also be gentle, don't just rub your fist on him. He came here to learn, help him. Okay? Try it. Harder. 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 That's why it's hard to keep harder. Harder. Don't let out all the breath. Too much. Harder. What you do, lift your arm, give the fist, and drop it down. Give the fist, drop it up. Then, on the way down, turn your arm, drop it. But don't let the fist go. You're not trying to push it through. You're not trying to drive it through. It falls. But the worst thing you can do is to try to go harder. Okay? Lift, drop. It doesn't have to be fast. It just has to stay in there. If you hold your arm, you don't allow it to go far enough and deep enough. So with all your heart punching, all of them stay on the surface. Barely penetrate the muscle. Okay? Try it, one-on-one.
From years of boxing, right, they teach you that it comes up from the ground, from here, so you're doing something like that. But he was just kind of standing here and bringing it in. So I was wondering where the force came from.
Tell me where it's coming from.
Well, he's on one foot now, so he's not. All right. Let me look at the top of it.
Breathe.
We're going to keep it up for a while. All that, but comes from wherever you want it to come from.
Yeah. You can be in a close range. Where it's coming from. If you manage your tension intelligently, you don't have to build up that long path for your punch.
Bobcat in a trap is my mind in a bind, and that, my man, I said. So what if I see red and can't keep my feet on the ground? It proves I'm not dead. And at least I've found that what I feel is the seal of my soul, even if slightly soiled. But what the heck, don't fret, I'll get it together. And my mind and soul will step on the way sometime glued together. If the weather is better, that's where 98% water comes in, just like a foreign film. The subtitles of mind's clatter. Darn, what you think really don't matter. It's what you don't that do. Catch me when I can snatch the mutter. With that still quiet voice, the word that started the whole damn thing. But the trouble is, they say it didn't get spoken words on demand in schools, fool. It's what lives us as you please. Demanding no fees, but unconditional surrender. Now you know I'd rather turn in 50 lifetimes of pleasure than do what I'm told. I've never really been in a fold. Ego's the thing, they want the most of whatever. Whether in you or me, show me your shuck, and I'll show you my jive. Better in being alive in someone else's play, even if it's in my creator's opening night. Where's the divine light? Is it just afterglow? Is it no more than optical nerves misfire, making all those prophets lies? I'll settle not having a medal for the chase, for being an inert speck of dust in an interstellar space. Though hip Astros types now say, it's all in the know. I do this rather than be in someone else's play, even on opening day. I'm no fool, I can see. To be or not to be, who gets the billing while I'm in here filling in one more crack in the divine damn plan? That isn't always so grand. when it's me stumbling around, fool. Who's just a tool in play, which looks to me like it's gone astray, working out karma that I don't want to remember. 25 of December is the cause and effect, and what have you got but a sore neck and a script that I seem to forget. So like it or not, it's the design that's so fine, with no thought to my particular time, so I don't believe we just stumble along.
We are on a peace tour and we are with 300 premies. We have people from Australia, people from Nepal and London and Dubai. So all have this prayer that peace should come on earth and peace should work and humanity should not fight. What's your question now? Tell me.
Like this ship is in the sea is in the earth, this earth is in the universe, this earth is in the fourth dimension, fifth dimension. Then I've thought a lot about this, but like what's before time? And as we say that time is God, then what can be before God? There has to be something. Yeah.
That something has to be infinity. That something has to be everlasting. And that is why we believe that the supreme energy has no beginning and no end. Have you heard the word Sanatan? Sanatan Dharma? The word Sanatan means eternal. And something which doesn't have a beginning and which doesn't have an end is Sanatan. Sanatan actually means no beginning, no end. Something which is eternal, which was, which is, and which will be. That entity is called Sanatan. And Dharma means to embrace it, to know it, to realize that supreme entity which is eternal. So Sanatan Dharma is the eternal religion. Do you understand me? So when you talk about time and you talk about God, you talk about so many things. That is why in our scriptures they have said that Purush, Prakriti are Sanatan. Which means that the energy in its purest form, that energy was, that energy is, and that energy will be. Okay? Then the matter is there. We also believe that the Prakriti, the matter, the nature is also Sanatan. Maybe not in this form, but some form or the other. Maybe in form of a cell. Something is happening. Some reaction is taking place. Like for example, take sun. What's happening in the sun? The fusion is happening in the sun. Radioactivity is happening in the sun. The matter is turning into energy, sun energy. So something is happening there. And that is again eternal. And the eternal energy and matter coming together, and like we have a human life, this also Purush, this is called Purusha. This also in our scripture is defined as eternal. That all these combinations are eternal. That is why the scientists say that this solar system is so huge, is so vast, you can't even comprehend. You know that the light travels at the speed of 186,000 miles per second. Is so fast. The light is traveling. The stars have exploded. The stars have died down, and the light is still traveling to us. So you can imagine the distance of the solar system. And there are many, many solar systems in this universe. So that is why now scientists are discovering black holes. So we have to come to a point where there was eternal energy, there was supreme energy, which has no beginning and no end. We are very fortunate to be on this peace tour, and we visited Nagasaki and ground zero, and we saw the spot where, right in the sky, 500 meters, the bomb exploded. And destroyed so many people. It is mentioned there that the scientists predicted that for next 75 years, nothing would grow there, nothing would be green in Nagasaki. But the people have worked very hard, and the whole area is now full of trees and greenery. That entire spot where so many people died, so many people were simply evaporated. And so we have to all understand, and from this we have to learn a lesson that there will be no atomic explosion in the world, so that the earth can live in peace, we can all live in peace. So all have this prayer that peace should come on earth, and peace should work, and humanity should not fight.